the gang. Stephanos, πέτους γεια.
Say hi.
Hi.
Πώς σε λένε? Stephanos.
Le.
Κάμε τους ok.
Okay. So here with me today I got Χρυσούλα Prodromou. She's the president of the Autism Support Center in Cyprus. Cyprus is an island in the Mediterranean Sea. It's the third biggest island in the Mediterranean. And today we're going to be talking and discussing about autism.
Yes.
And we're not just speculating about autism, we are talking about tangible experience of how to overcome and practical tips about, you know, how to deal with autism per se.
To the best of our knowledge and ability.
So we are 6 children in total, and the 6th child, my little brother, Χρυσούλα is, as you can understand, the mother.
I think so.
He's been diagnosed with autism when he was about 2.5 years old.
Yeah.
And myself as a sister, and of course I do firmly believe that being a parent is even harder, because as a sister you kind of accept the situation, you work around it, but as a parent you want the best for your children.
It does affect the siblings as well, as you all know.
Yeah.
It's not just the parents who are struggling to deal with it every day. It does affect the whole family.
And every person is so different as to how they deal with it.
Oh yeah. Depending on the age, depending what line you are in, the 6 children, it's all connected. It all takes its toll somehow.
I remember when we were calling Stephanos with his name to come, and he wouldn't respond, and that was the first thing that we start realizing that something wasn't right.
Yeah, because when you call a child's name, immediately you're waiting for some kind of response. But with Stephanos, after a certain age and after, it was like it kind of seemed like he was deaf, but he wasn't, because that was the first thing you go to check is the ears.
Yes.
The ears are fine.
Sorry to interrupt you, but I remember you gave us the alphabet for the deaf people to start learning the sign language.
Yeah, sign language.
We start. You gave us a copy. We were going to school, and then she gave us all of us a copy of the sign language.
It's just amazing how many things you go through when you've got this diagnosis of autism, and you think, wow. Just in the internet you find so much information. It can be confusing. It can be extremely confusing. That's why you need to talk to other parents about their experiences. And of course, what helps one child doesn't help everybody. Something that helped my son hasn't helped other children. So you can't dismiss anything. It really is a gut instinct thing, especially from the mother or the parents. You're working with your intuition most of the time, and your aim is just to see how far you can push that child to function to the best of its ability. And then the biggest issue is when you finally realise that you're dealing with a child that's going to need help for the rest of its life, and you're thinking, oh God, what happens when we're not around anymore?
I think this is the biggest question that you've got now.
Oh yeah.
But before we get to that point, my first question to you is and just a parenthesis, if you see someone walking and you hear someone screaming, it's Stephanos. So
he's happily cutting flowers, grass, weeds. It's his
he does all the labour work in there.
You can actually see his fingers are absolutely black because of the shredding he does through his fingers. It's all that sensory.
If we're able to get him to say hello to you, it would be nice. But let's see. So because there are many parents that they've got autistic children, and I know that there's different spectrums of autism.
Kids are on the spectrum. They're high function or low function.
Okay. So as a mother and future mothers or mothers that are dealing with it, what was your first honest reaction when you're dealing with it?
Devastation. It was like shock. How do we get through this? How do we deal with this? What does the future hold? How will the child cope? 1,000 different questions swirling around in your mind. And then that's when you start reaching out to, when you've realised you're dealing with a problem, then you start asking for other people's advice, help, and you kind of just snowballs from then.
I remember it was like a labyrinth of all this different information, all these different treatments, all this, I don't know, like creams, therapies and
supplements and medication
and waves and
frequencies and you name it. I think we've done it, like all other parents as well.
Yeah,
it's just searching for that one thing that will make the difference.
Do you think it's important to go through all these treatments? Do you think there is one treatment that will cure autism?
There's not a cure for autism. Autism, there's no cure for it, but you can try to make autism better for the child to cope with the autism, to function better, to be able to be as independent as possible. But the other huge issue that we have is the acceptance in society. For us in our year Napa, we're really lucky because from the time Stephanos went into junior school and into nursery, because the younger children they're different. I don't know why, but they always embraced the children with autism at school. And sometimes we might go to the beach or to a restaurant, and there's actually people of Stephanos' age that will say, it's Stephanos, and they remember him from school, and you're thinking, wow, isn't that lovely how
we got a very supportive community when it comes with people with disabilities. And for those that they don't know, Napa, it is a small village on the east coast of Cyprus. And we're part of the Famagusta district, and
hence our society's name, Autism Support Famagusta.
Exactly, yes.
And we've got a lot of parents and volunteers supporting our society. We're very lucky for the support of our municipality and our mayor, and just the people around who recognise that Stephanos has got a disability or has got autism and that he's different. And because we're a close-knit community, we get the support from the community, which is really, really wonderful.
The amazing part for this woman is that Stephanos, and it's not just about Stephanos. What I'm trying to say is that you took it a step further. And you said it's not just about my child, it's about every Stephanos, it's out there. And it's not just about Cyprus, it's about the whole world as well. It's for every autistic child out there to, and she's an advocate for the rights of people with autism. She speaks up for the rights, and so, I ensure as a lawyer myself to put the right legal framework for those people to be protected and to ensure that they have quality life, and to be by law somehow independent. And that's where we get to the point that we are trying to build now. The can we say about this project?
We can discuss the project.
General, no too much information because we don't want to spoil that. But that's what we're talking about. The support is that there is this idea, there is this project. It takes time. It doesn't happen overnight. Is to create a centre for people with. Is it just for autism?
It's actually for children or young adults over the age of 21, because the system hasn't got anything in place for adults over 21, and that's our biggest fear as parents, is what happens. They're not responsibilities of our siblings, of our children. They're going to have their own families, their own children, their own problems. So the brother has to be set up somewhere after the parents have gone. And the idea is to have an autism centre which has like the daycare facilities available. That's for the younger children, and then have the older children in a cared environment for their safety, but have programs continually in there for the children.
Educate them and to have things to do.
Like Stephanos likes art, to push him more on the art side. There's other children that are very mathematical. There's different things to.
We had to take a break to persuade Stephanos to go and do his music lesson, but he's not convinced. So he's still here. Is he? you can't see him, so he's still outside cutting the grass. We were talking about the, if I'm not mistaken, about the projects, the big project of the association, and that is to create a day centre about people with autism.
Yes.
And if you can tell us a few things about it.
Basically, the day centre is for the younger children to have speech, occupational therapy, music therapy, any support with the homework from school and such things. And then to have another annex which is for the older children over the age of 21, because there is nothing actually in place via the government or the state here for children over 21. So what happens is these people end up going into institutes or old age pension homes, which is completely wrong. So this is a time where things have to change, hence our project of an autism centre, or a respite centre as it's more commonly known, which will provide a structured daily cared environment for these children, and actually magnify and support their actual talents. Let's say for Stephanos, he likes drawing or painting or anything creative like this, so I would like to see in that environment that he's supported to help him improve. Maybe he loves music, that too, but there's children that are more mathematical, or children that have other talents, so hopefully the concept is to actually look at each child individually and help them progress with their talents. Because it really isn't our children's responsibility to look after their autistic brother or sister. They're going to have their own families, their own children, their own problems. So after we leave and we pass over, what actually happens to these children that need support when we're not here? So that's the idea of this autism centre, and we're very, very lucky to have the support of the community, of our mayor, which we've probably already mentioned, our municipality.
I did mention in a previous video of mine about the mayor and his very innovative ideas, and the positive impact that he has on the community, and of course how much he embraces the whole idea and the whole project. And it's not just about embracing, he actually takes action points towards making it happen.
That's right.
And definitely we're very thankful for that. And to wrap up this video, we don't want it to be too long, even though it is a lifetime of experience, and you can't capture all those experiences in a video.
There's something very important. In the case that your child has been diagnosed that is autistic or is on the spectrum, reach out and talk about it. Don't try to waste too much of your time and energy asking why and how, because the quicker you accept it, the quicker you're going to actually be able to support your own child in moving on and supporting the issues that they've got, whether they're not speaking or whether they've got aggressive behaviours or whether they're stimming or stereotyping or whatever. You need to just accept it, that's all, simply. Easier said than done, I understand.
And it's the impacts it has, as you said, in the family, your husband. Those are different kind of fights, and I mean fights in a sense of making sure that everyone is happy, and it's very difficult to maintain that very delicate balance.
It's a balance. You're juggling the balances, because the parents, sometimes they don't agree, sometimes they're actually blaming the one and the other. There's a huge strain on the relationships within the family, which doesn't always portray outside in society. They're just having their own issues inside. This is why we want to organise support for the family as well, not just for the child to learn how to speak and learn how to behave, but the actual family is going through a huge change and needs support. That's another huge subject.
Subject and topic.
Yeah, it's huge.
There is a lot into it.
Yeah.
You gave your advice about the young parents that are discovering that the child has been diagnosed with autism. We spoke about the difficulties the family has to overcome.
Yeah.
And what is the one thing that ideally you're giving this advice, but you still have to you still kind of have to overcome some challenges yourself. What is the one that you're still struggling with, and you
My
recognize
personal
your
struggle.
personal struggle? Yeah, so people can understand it's not just those 20 minutes that we're here. It's
No. Okay.
there is a real fight behind
Okay.
it. Yeah.
My own son was very self-aggressive. Never used to attack anybody but himself. So, for whatever reason he had, which is still unknown, he used to hit specifically the right-hand side of his face. Unfortunately, and something that we'll find very difficult to live with for the rest of our lives, he had a detached retina and is now blind in the right eye. So, despite this huge problem that has happened to our son, we still have to just get through day by day and embrace the good days and try and get through the bad days, because life just goes on. End of story. You've just got to deal with it. No matter how bad and painful it is, you've got other kids in the family as well. You've got a husband, you've got to be able to balance your life and the quality of life for everybody. So we just have to get on with it. I'm sorry about my accent, by the way. It's very Birmingham, Dudley, and it's quite broad, I understand, so I'm sorry. Sorry.